Speaking on Puff, you heard what Usher said?
Yes, I did hear what Usher had to say.
Yeah, let me just say this: I commend Usher for not trying to submit to societal norm. I think it's respectable. I mean, if he haven't had a bad situation with Puff, I respect the fact that he acknowledged that and he said he's not afraid to say it. I honestly respect that. I've watched a lot of people who have relationships with Puff do a whole 360 because they didn't want to be judged. And sometimes it's better not to say anything than say something at all. So
I didn't like what he said. I think
it's his man.
I'm not saying he has to pile on.
And he's talked about his legacy and what he contributed to just the culture in general. I respect it.
Should I play it?
Yeah.
In the same way, I think many people choose to look past the reality of what our country is, the standards that we now stand on. We can't ignore the reality of the history. But in many ways, I think certain people are prosecuted and maybe not recognized for the greatness, that they offer. I don't have anything negative to say about Sean Combs because my experience was not what the world has seen and how he's been, misrepresented. I'm not saying that every man is perfect. I'm not saying that all of us don't have flaws, but I can't, with any sense of humanity, not recognize the valuable contributions that this man made for us as Black entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Usher sound like J. Cole's second thought.
For us as people who transition, culture and ideas into something that's tangible and becomes business. So many people benefited from what he created, and I acknowledge that. And that's why I see him as legacy.
Yeah. You told Shannon Sharp you learned a lot about business during that era.
Absolutely.
What'd you learn?
Puff was a mentor bum, but
Interviewer trying to get
like
slick.
You had that really, really hard teacher, but you're watching something in real time.
Seems
I think that the idea of the level of discipline that came with that time in business, especially in an era that was trying to prove itself culturally in hip hop. Now, you can't turn on the television and not see the influence of hip hop.
That's right.
But the people who actually made that appropriate and are the forefathers are people like Sean Combs. And not just in the great times that they had musically, but in the idea of being able to find ways to monetize culture and create something that was not just black or white. It was colorless. It was green. That's who I see that man as.
I don't think it's that difficult.
And that's what I choose to remember.
Yeah. I don't think it's
put
that
respect on his name because I realized that
He's almost done
what
with
I
that.
learned as a businessman before I even understood what business was came as a result of seeing the incredible things that he was able to do and the way that he positioned himself as a businessman. There are trials and tribulations that come with the pressures of success and power. But what we choose to do with it is what I hope that you see with me and hopefully other people that I'm involved with, right?
two things
I
can be
didn't
true.
like this. Yeah, I didn't.
That's
I
a
think-
lot of
So
words to
big.
not also just say that video was absolutely
fucked up.
disgusting.
Right,
Like,
and I agree. I totally feel where Flip coming from. Where like you're not doing what everybody else doing, and you're not. But it was a way that he could have did that without doing that. And I just like for so many people to be, it'd be a known thing that Puff them up financially. It's like you mentioning about what he did for entrepreneurs. I just think he sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Like I don't. I mean, he's known to rob. That's what he's known to do. So it's like, what the are we talking about? Also, I feel like with the age thing, I'm sure you probably looked up to him because you're a kid. You know what I mean? When you meet him or whatever. But and I get what you're saying. I respect it too.
Everyone experience is different though, Mo.
True.
That's
True.
Everybody
And-
experienced with somebody,
But
and just because I think we made it acceptable for. We saw the video. He's a piece of shit for that and stuff like that. But there's also, however, there's people that have a great experience with him, and why they shouldn't share their experience because right now he's being looked at as this big monster. No, you can share your positive experience with somebody even if they're looked at as a monster. You can. And you shouldn't be afraid to do so if it's genuine. And a lot of times I watch people do that. I watch people be in niggas' face, laugh and smile, and then change their whole shit because of some shit that came out. I'd rather somebody just shut the fuck up, yo.
I do that.
A lot of times I shut the fuck up.
But I'm
Because
okay
my
with
man, if I see my man, I shut the fuck up. My man did something and I love him and he took care of me and he held me down, I'ma shut the fuck up.
But he didn't do that. That's my issue. I don't have an issue with him saying the good experiences he had with Puff or saying the great things that Puff did in business. I don't have a problem with that. I also don't have a problem with him shutting the fuck up if he doesn't say anything about it, right? Because that's his man. He could have just said, I don't want to talk about that. Boom, I'm cool with that. To me, it felt like a 5-minute straw man, right? Like he starts by saying, you know, some people get prosecuted. He says he got misrepresented.
Yeah, that part.
Right.
Okay.
You could walk if you come down on this planet and hear this interview, you would almost think to me that Puff was mistreated, almost that he didn't do anything wrong.
Like he was railroaded.
So right, that he was railroaded. So for me, I don't have a problem with him. And you might not know anything. Let's say, and I don't believe this, but let's say Usher knew nothing bad about Puff, doesn't know any bad stories about Puff, don't know anything, and he saw that Cassie video for the first time like us, right? You could still say that Cassie video's up, but that's not all there is to know about this man. He's also this, and all the shit he said. That's my only issue with it. It's like when you hear him talk, it's like he only talked about the good stuff, and also finally, like I think it's a dishonest argument. I don't think anybody has ever denied those things about Puff. They're just saying, in fact, I think most of Puff's life, he's been celebrated for all the awesome shit he did. It's only in the last 2 to 3 years that all this other shit is coming out. So it's also, to me, like, not honest to make it seem like he's never gotten his due. I think he's gotten his due, and now we found out some shit, and we need to own that too, or be quiet about it.
He earned his
Usher
fall
can't
from
be quiet.
grace. He earned his fall from
Yeah.
grace.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that he's maybe saying that the time that he got for the crime that he was found guilty on may be too much?
If that's what he's saying, then say that. I think that.
Then we're giving him time for, okay, we talked about the video.
Just say it.
We saw the video.
But he
yes.
said exactly what he wanted to say. It's
Yeah.
where
And I disagree with what he said.
I'm having a problem with y'all stance.
Yeah.
Not that I disagree with something y'all saying, but y'all stance don't leave room for the people that feel like Usher, for the people that Flip is sitting here talking about. Everybody doesn't choose to have to acknowledge the worst of their homie when they're
why
at.
don't he have to say that?
I don't think.
And he said that.
I don't think he needs to do that.
You keep saying
But you saying
he should say
he
that.
should have said
Or
A
he
and
should
B.
not have said anything.
No, what I'm saying is, if you want to say B and just B, fine. What I'm saying is, when you say he's been misrepresented and that some people get
A
prosecuted,
lot of people
it gives the
feel like he
impression-
was misrepresented.
I'm with you.
Parks.
I'm saying,
I mean,
I'm
Parks.
saying
Mark.
it gives the impression that you feel that stuff isn't true or isn't accurate, or that you don't have a position on it.
Let me say this,
And his
right?
victims
But he
involved.
said, I choose not to focus.
No, but even
on
in
those things.
the misrepresentation point,
Yeah.
at some point they were calling Puff this serial. They were saying that Puff did all of these things, and if you are Usher, and I'm just going because I don't want to be insensitive, right? Let's just say you were around Puff and you seeing women throwing themselves at him. Right? Or you might have some information of a woman that gave Puff sex consensually, and then that person then came out and said, yo, he did these things to me.
Yeah.
That's a misrepresentation.
Right.
Nobody in America can say they misrepresented Puff as a woman beater after seeing him whip Cassie's ass.
Right.
That's not a misrepresentation. That is accurate, is spot on, is dead on. But there could have been other things in that case that were a misrepresentation of him. They was trying to get a life, my
Right. I'm with,
for being a sexual carnivore. They was trying to get a life, man. So if you looking at it from that perspective, I see how somebody that's your friend that knows the other side of you, or might have been in some of that with you, can say, yo, that's a misrepresentation
I'm
of
with
what
you.
these freak offs were.
I don't take
Nowadays-
just let me respond real quick. I don't take issue with that. What you just said has a lot of nuance, and you're saying it might not have been this, it might have been this, might not. And the problem is when you give these kind of flat statements to the media, it leaves room for this conversation that didn't need to be left. If you just say some of that shit was fucked up, but there's a lot of shit the media got wrong, and I want to focus on the shit that's good.
That's
about
kind
him.
of what he said.
That's not how I took it.
Yeah,
that's
me
kinda
either.
what he said.
Also, I feel
I didn't
like
hear that.
right now, because we learning, we're growing as a community, as a culture, we treat things differently when there are victims involved, and that's why you are supposed to say shit like that. There's humans that were hurt by this,
Yes.
and they're still walking around. You know what I mean? So, you never mind, because I'm going to say that. Y'all just said I went somewhere else with it.
No.
I think Usher can't win. You know what I mean? Like he's in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, that's why you
like
should
you
shut the
just
fuck
said,
up.
Mark, he was like, he shouldn't say anything. He has to. Then he looks like, if he doesn't, he's complicit.
They gonna diss him. Yeah, they gonna diss on him. Yo, you ain't saying nothing because you know Puff was fondling you when you was little.
But I think it's easy to just say he did some up shit, but he also did all this great shit. It's very
That's
simple.
all I'm saying.
He
That's
said
what
that was
I'm
a
saying.
5-minute
Why does
clip
he have to
without
say
just
that?
saying
But
that.
Paul, but why does he have to acknowledge that he did? We all
Yeah,
know
that's
he's
the
a
answer I'm
fucking
looking
shit.
for from y'all.
Because if you-
Because
like,
of humans. That's my answer.
So
Because
to
of victims.
appease someone, to appease people.
I wouldn't call it appeasing anybody, but I would call it respecting people that were hurt in the situation. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Neutral button.